And now it's time for Fabulous Film and Friends. On our 83rd episode of Fabulous Film and Friends, we're driving headfirst into the maelstrom as we discuss all of director George Miller's post-apocalyptic Mad Max movies, including the newly released Furiosa. What's that you say? Didn't we just review The Road Warrior on our recent Australian Apocalypse podcast? We did, but we glossed over an important factor in the film's success, and we're going to make amends as we break down 1979's Mad Max, starring Mel Gibson, Joanna Samuel, Steve Bisley, Tim Burns, Vincent Gill, and Hugh Keays-Byrne. Then on to 1982's The Road Warrior, aka Mad Max 2, once again starring Mel Gibson along with Bruce Spence, Chell Nilsson, Max Phipps, Vernon Wells, Mike Preston, Archie Whiteley, Virginia Hay, and Emil Minty. Then on to 1985's Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, starring Mel Gibson once again, this time with Tina Turner and Helen Boudet, Tom Jennings, Frank Thring, Angelo Rosito, Angry Anderson, Robert Grubb, George Spartels, Edwin Hodgman, and Bruce Spence again in a different but yet similar role to his Road Warrior part. Then there's a 30-year lull, and Miller picks up again in 2015 with Mad Max Fury Road, this time with Tom Hardy replacing Mel Gibson as Max, and paired with Charlize Theron as Furiosa, while also starring Nicholas Hoult, Zoe Kravitz, Riley Keough, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, Abby Lee, Courtney Eaton, Richard Carter, John Howard, Josh Hellman, Nathan Jones, and Hugh Keays-Byrne again, not playing the same part in Mad Max. And finally, topping off the tank with 2024's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga starring Anya Taylor Joy as Furiosa, Chris Hemsworth, Tom Burke, Alila Brown, George Shevstov, Lacey Holm, John Howard, Angus Sampson, Josh Hellman, Nathan Jones, and Charlie Fraser. I'm joined this week by my kid sister, the renowned English lit snob and biker movie enthusiast Roseanne Caputi, and returning to the program after a year-long spell are both author and hypnotherapist Joe Field and erstwhile photographer, musician, podcaster, and now website owner Kendrick Wright. Ken, I'm not going to put you on the spot with any impersonations or snappy patter requests, but I yield the floor in order for you to pitch your brand new website. Go.
Well, thank you, Gino. It's very nice of you. So a new website called lambjones.com. It's LAMJONES, no B in Lamb Jones. And it's a forum for creative people to collaborate together, mainly musicians to start off with. So if you make music on your own, if you're a singer, if you play guitar, if you play keyboards, but you want to meet up with other people, you want to expand your horizons a little bit, you want somebody else to add a track to your wonderful song you've just made, you connect, you reach out, you connect with other like-minded individuals, and you get people to work on your projects.
Real rock and roller, eh?
That's right. It can be, of course, it can be anything, whichever direction you want to go in. We hopefully Lamb Jones will be the place where you will meet up with those folks.
Awesome. Well, speaking of rock and roll, the synopses. Mad Max is set a few years into the future, where society is breaking down and car and motorcycle thugs rule the roads, striking fear into the hearts of ordinary schmoes just trying to make a living and survive. Main Force Patrol Officer Max Rockatansky, along with his partner Goose, fight an uphill battle of trying to restore order to the road and society at large. When they inadvertently kill a gang member known as the Knight Rider, Max and Goose raise the ire of his psychotic leader, Toecutter, who retaliates by horribly disfiguring Goose and Max's wife, Jessie, and killing Max's son, Sprague. With everything taken from him, a soul-crushed Max becomes a one-man killing force, exacting revenge on Toecutter and anyone else who stands in his way. The Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, raises the stakes of its predecessor and calls out the societal issue as a great war between two tribes, and picks up the story with Max traveling the barren, hellish post-apocalyptic highways and stumbling upon an evil road gang led by a brute named Lord Humongous. Humongous is hell-bent on invading a compound belonging to a group of civilized and intelligent settlers who have built an oasis around the last of the oil wells and have running lights and supplies. Losing numbers and their morale under the constant attacks of Humongous, the settlers hatch a plan to escape the vermin on wheels and to flee to the coast with their oil in tow. With the help of Max and a pilot called the Gyro Captain, the settlers are given a chance to survive and a little notion called hope. In Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, Max, now a full-fledged nomadic warrior, has all his possessions stolen, and in trying to track them down, finds a sleazy desert trading post called Bartertown. Max strikes a bargain with the town's ruler, Auntie Entity, in order to regain his possessions. Auntie wants Max to fight her rival called Master Blaster in the town's gladiator arena known as Thunderdome so she can gain complete control of Bartertown. It should be noted that Master Blaster is two people, Master being a highly intelligent person of short stature who devised the town's energy production system based on methane gas from pig feces, and who rides on the shoulders of Blaster, a mute man-mountain who cannot be beaten. Discovering a weakness in Blaster, Max beats him decisively in the Thunderdome brawl, but before he can deliver the death knell, learns that Blaster is but a simple, developmentally disabled Hulk with the mind of a child. Refusing to kill him, Max is punished for reneging on the deal and is exiled out into the desert to die. All is lost until Max is discovered by a tribe of children who live in a thriving green oasis with water, fish, and all the means of survival. Believing Max to be Captain Walker, the pilot of the crashed airplane of which the children were progeny of the survivors, the children entreat Max to take them back home. When Max refuses and punctures a hole in the children's beliefs, which they've taken to religious levels, a group of rebels led by a girl named Savannah Nix head out in the wasteland to try to find where Max hailed from. It's then up to Max to rescue the children from the forces of Bartertown and to truly take them home. Mad Max Fury Road finds Max imprisoned in a rock fortress called the Citadel and forced into being a blood supplier for the sickly war boys of the cult warlord leader named Immortan Joe. When Joe's chief transportation lieutenant, Imperator Furiosa, betrays Joe and smuggles his wives from Joe's harem to bring them to the safety of the Green Place, Joe's army and the armies of the neighboring Bullet Farm and Gastown give a desperate chase to get Joe's wives back. During the chaos, Max escapes captivity and forms an uneasy alliance with Furiosa as the two hurtle down Fury Road in an epic chase for their lives and the future of civilization. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, a franchise first prequel and continuity-driven story of young Furiosa, tells how she lost her mother, her true love, and her arm at the hands of the demagogue Dr. Dementus, a cruel rabble-rouser who starts a wasteland war with Immortan Joe and the leaders of the Bullet Farm and Gastown. Whew, okay. 5 movies. Synopses. Who do I pick on first? Show of hands. Who wants to go first? Anyway, Joe, it's been a while. Joe, first things first, rank them.
Rank them.
You just saw them. Joe's never seen these movies before. Rank them.
Okay. Sure. In terms of quality or how much I enjoyed them?
Either or. What's in your heart in terms of ranking them?
Okay. I think probably not too surprising. I think Road Warrior is probably pretty close up to the top. I would say Road Warrior, in terms of sheer enjoyment factor, I'm going to be very controversial and say Beyond Thunderdome. I also liked, I would say maybe Furiosa next, Mad Max, and then after that would be Fury Road.
Wow, number 5. You were defying you're defying
I know,
your millennial
I'm going
generation.
Against everything. I'm starting off strong.
I'll go.
All right, Ken, you're up. Go.
Different take. Number 1 is Fury Road. Number 2 is.
Let me break in, Ken. I can always count on you for the conventional view.
Well, maybe. Actually, maybe not. So Furiosa. No. So Fury Road, then Furiosa, then Road Warrior. Then it's tough between Mad Max and.
Just rank them. I don't need analysis yet. Rank them.
Mad Max, Thunderdome. I mean Mad Max. That last one.
Okay, so regular Mad Max is number 5 on your list.
No. Mad Max is 4, and then the Beyond Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunderdome is last. Okay, Roseanne.
Road Warrior, Mad Max, Fury Road, Furiosa, Beyond Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunderdome last. Okay, I'm gonna go. Yes, the Road Warrior, Beyond Thunderdome, Fury Road, Furiosa, Mad Max. So we all have a different. So now, Ken, explain yourself. So
Yeah,
I know everybody believes Fury Road is better than Road Warrior, but I'm going to disprove that theory.
Oh, you're going to disprove it?
Yes.
Yeah, but Thunder Road has one thing going very well for it, one thing going against it. One is, so obviously the computer generated stuff versus the analog stuff of real cars and real, real stunts, things like that. So that's what Road Warrior has going for it, which Fury Road is the detriment of. However, this is a type of thing where the bigger stunts are more impressive and more important. So Mad Max had, or Road Warrior had some decent stunts, but at the end of the day, they were just cars driving around, and I did not get the power, the vitality of what they were going for. So sure, there's cars driving, you got bad guys, you got good guys, but as far as a forum, it just didn't. It didn't grab me the way it grabbed a lot of people. Whereas Fury Road, they had the technology then to sort of up the ante. They spent more time on the cars, spent more time on the actual stunts themselves, and sort of more interesting stunts within the framework. And that's what I appreciated more.
Hogwash, though. Hogwash. It's pure hogwash. See,
Not
again,
at all.
this whole like millennial Zoomer generation of video games, it's not rooted in any possible reality. It's all just hogwash. So again, all right, I have to get it off my chest first. I hated Fury Road when I first saw it. I've come to accept it, just that I'm an old man saying, okay, this is an art form, which is computer generated movies. So in terms of computer generated movies, it's good. It's better that it at least has a tangible storyline and action that isn't just sheer nonsense. But compared to the Road Warrior, it's still sheer nonsense in my mind. The Road Warrior
I have
is a tactile...
to say, I think. Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you were saying. Go ahead. I'll let you interrupt.
No, I just think really fast. I don't think stunts are the thing with Mad Max. I think it's mood. And so the first time I saw Fury Road, I thought, okay, is this the right mood? And I've come around to decide that it is. But again, car stunts, I mean, you can watch any number of Fast and the Furious movies and have this. Well, the thing that's compelling about Mad Max, the Mad Max saga, is what you're feeling. And so Road Warrior, I think, is the ultimate in terms of like nihilistic depravity. Anyway, so that's why I always think stunts are the least of it. Sorry.
Yeah, but well, if you are talking about the power of the film medium, the stunts are important because they are impressive. And guys were being sent to the hospital left and right making that movie, and it shows. I mean, when the guy flips 100 feet across the highway, it's because he went too far and he broke his leg.
I get it, but you can say that about any car chase movie. Without the post-apocalyptic S&M feel, without Lord Humongous, without these things, no one would care about Mad Max. At least I would not care about Mad Max.
For sure.
And so, so when, no offense, Ken, good to see you. It's been a while. I just think.
Good to see you.
Thanks. I just think stunts are the least of it for me, because otherwise this is a franchise I wouldn't care about. If we're basing it on that, because I think Furiosa honestly goes, I think in that way it is the best, but I don't think it's the best in terms of mood and feeling.
Continue on, Ken. So
Sorry, go ahead.
Why is Furiosa? So I mean, I can see why you would like, because for the first time, Furiosa and Fury Road, they're a pair, where the other three are disparate movies with a disparate mood and a disparate era. They almost feel like movies of their era, but Fury Road and Furiosa for sure feel like a 1-2 set.
Yeah, but just going on what Roseanne said is the two things are like one thing is Beyond Thunderdome. I mean, talk about a change of mood. So yeah, Mad Max and Road Warrior had a specific mood, a specific dyspora, if I said that word right.
Diaspora.
Diaspora. Thank you. So yeah, they were going for that that feel, and that's actually, well, anyway, I'll wait on that comment. But and so Thunderdome obviously completely different, and I thought negatively. I did not like the direction that Thunder Road went as far as the mood and the feel of it. That being said, when you go into Thunder Road or Fury Road and Furiosa, it just seemed like there was more. I mean, if this is true, there was more backstory. Obviously, they had more to build on, and they went into more detail on more things, which to me opened up the story more. Mad Max, a very simple premise, like very basic building blocks of a movie premise, and then Road Warrior, very very simplistic in its rollout of what it is. It did it new, nobody else had sort of approached that subject before in that way, so it was new and interesting, but still fairly one note, in my opinion. Whereas the later movies, you've got to develop.
I'm going to fight you on one note.
Yeah,
we wouldn't be talking about the Road Warrior if it was one note. I mean, there wouldn't be 1.5 million shitty LA straight to video ripoffs if it was one note. It's just not one note. I defy you to explain yourself on that.
Well, the premise. I mean, I suppose a lot of movie premises are simple, but this one is,
I've said it before. The best movies are simple. Star Wars is simple. The Godfather is simple. Blade Runner is simple. All the great movies are simple.
Yeah, but they all have, they all delve deep. Like Star Wars has an entire arc in it that is multifaceted, whereas Road Warrior is, you've got to get this truck to the new land and people are going to attack it.
You got to destroy
okay,
the
but
Death
in
Star.
the meantime,
that's
you do
bullshit.
have these
You got to destroy the Death Star.
factions.
What's simpler than that? Rescue the princess and destroy the base.
Hold up. The idea of what people have done to planet Earth, I think the environmental message is way stronger in Road Warrior than any of the other films.
Without hitting you over the head with it.
Right. But you also have the idea of, okay, lowest chakra depravity versus a human race that is bent on moving forward and potentially evolving. I do feel that there are so many different factors at play. Plus, also, I do think Mad Max and Road Warrior, which is why Mad Max is still on, in my top two. Actually, it's almost like Evil Dead and then Evil Dead again, in the sense that you see Max becoming first a complete man with no name, and then you see his spark of humanity. I think the most in Road Warrior than you see in anything else. And I think you're really right about the tone change that's for the worst in Thunderdome, because I love the feral kid in Road Warrior and I loathe the kids in Thunderdome. Just the effing worst. It's Ewoks, it's Hook, it's everything I hate with kids.
Right.
Anyway, and Road Warrior isn't that. Road Warrior has a moment you just being like terrifying of what happens to children in this environment. And so I do think the simplicity of get the shit to the other place does allow us to see all these things in play.
Yeah, but as far as I see that, and that's relevant, but it is sort of in the most basic building blocks. Like even literally, the bad guys are all wearing black. I mean, I know this, again, it happens in a lot of movies, but this is like stark.
Well, so is Max.
Yeah, but he starts off as a bad guy, but then the town, the refinery town, all those warriors are still in the same desert, the same apocalyptic wasteland, but they all seem to find white uniforms to be wearing. So it's like, it becomes so elemental in the storytelling, not to mention the music.
Well, I think that's what makes a classic.
Yeah,
I think that is what makes a
subtle.
classic.
It's all very subtle in the black and white. It's characterizing the fact that they're loose and they're trying. They're free flowing people of Earth versus I mean, okay, it's not subtle, but
versus psychosexual.
It looks as if it still looks as if they grabbed that stuff from scavenging. So I think it's just like the choices they make, and it's sort of obvious when you stare at the screen long enough. And you're like, it's funny how all the bad guys just manage to be wearing the leather outfits. But come on, it's a style. There is definitely an element of fantasy.
Though, it is their choice as a tribe. This is part of the world building. And I
Yeah.
do think without that world building, you don't have the other films. And I think with
Yeah.
all great myths, you can see there are, overreaching archetypes, obviously, and subtleties that make them work. And you can find either in Road Warrior. And I don't think you can find both as well in the other films.
Well, I'm coming around on Thunderdome as I've told. So before I start, before I elaborate, Joe, we're ripping on they're ripping on your favorite film. So what do you have to say? What do you have to say in defense?
Yeah, what do you got?
What do you have to say in defense of the children of Thunderdome?
Oh, in defense of the children of Thunderdome, geez. So first of all, I just found it to be the most entertaining. I do think that it is a pretty big tonal shift from almost pretty much most of the rest of the franchise. At the same time, like you were mentioning world building, and I found that to be one of the, I mean, while there are definitely a unique look, and Mad Max has influenced countless, like you were saying, Gina, like countless of other ripoffs. There's a whole aesthetic attached to it. At the same time, like the world building is extremely or quite inconsistent in general. Maybe the exception being, again, with the latter two movies of Furiosa and Fury Road. Otherwise, like most of the movies you could take almost out of context and watch them and you'd be fine. Like you don't need to know a whole lot about Max's backstory because most of it never even comes up in the other movies. As for why or what happened, like the sort of claims in the second movie, the prologue of the second movie, have almost nothing to do, or like they change consistently with the third one, where they talk about like, oh, like nuclear war is what caused this. Before it was just sort of like an oil crisis.
Right.
And people looting and stuff like that. So the questions and the changes requires a lot of backwards justification. And then even the era seems to have changed with Furiosa being a child growing up in all of this wasteland, but still somehow close to Max's age. Despite the fact
No,
that
she's much younger.
That.
She's much younger. Remember, Max saves her before she becomes Charlize Theron.
Oh, geez, yeah, sure. Yeah.
If you're, I mean, you notice that, right? And spoiler to anybody who hasn't seen Furiosa, she gets saved by Max. Like she's dying, and Max saves her.
But Gino, the movie's been out for 2 days. You're gonna give a spoiler right now?
I just said spoiler alert, so obviously, yeah. So no, but I well, real quick, I don't think it matters. And see, one thing it bugged all of us. We were so those of us alive in 1985 and loved the Road Warrior, we hated Thunderdome because of the tonal shift. And because just there was no continuity whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But over time, you realize that's not important to the series. It's a story. These are fables. Everyone from a different perspective. It's almost like the Bible or the Gospels in a sense. They're always about Max from a different point of view. So now anything can happen. He can save Furiosa, and I don't even care anymore. It's like he can be old Mel Gibson. He can be old Mel Gibson, and it doesn't matter. Like if they bring back Mel Gibson, and they should, because he's definitely the best Max. Like it doesn't matter because they're all like the tone of the series has been from the point of view of whoever the story's about. Whether it's Savannah telling the story at the end of Thunderdome, and then we flash back to Max holding the spear or the cane, and he's walking down the road. So it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. There is no continuity to this story, to this series. It doesn't. They're just the same story told differently from different people.
Yeah, but I would say that it's not that it doesn't matter. I'd say that as far as sequels and prequels and this and that it does matter. Although your point that we just go with it, we just go with the flow, and whatever they do is going to be fine because we like the material. I mean, to an extent, yes, but I do believe that. I don't want to say a better filmmaker. That's not fair at all. But I do appreciate attention to detail throughout a longer story. So I was also thrown by some of these shifts.
George Miller clearly read his criticisms, I'm sure. And so what does he do in Fury Road? He turns little baby Sprague, little toddler Sprague into a girl.
Yeah, that I thought was weird.
So now I think he's flat out saying, screw you, continuity. These are fables. So once I sort of accepted that, I'm like, okay, They're just stories like Paul Bunyan.
Well, yeah, but I still didn't like that. I didn't like that he just made the dead baby a girl.
I like that because to me it's like comic books. So I'm taking it a
No.
little less seriously than the gospel, but I just think, okay, so Max's Tales in the Wasteland to me is what it is. So it's just like in certain ones he's this, in certain ones he has this power. And I actually think that's interesting more so than the continuity with the detail, because I still think I like this idea that, like with comic books, it shifted in the 70s, it shifted in the 80s, it shifted in the 90s, and you see these cultural shifts along with Max, and then you see them in terms of effects and stuff like that, and I like that. I like that we weren't ready for Furiosa before, but now we are potentially, even though he had warriors, in Road Warrior that were women and things like that. I do like that kind of world. I think it makes it much more like the strange, discombobulated wasteland that it's representing.
I mean, that's a decent point. That it's through what it's representing, it has the ability to represent it different ways because that's what it's representing.
Right.
And that's valid.
I hate. Nobody was more crushed by Thunderdome than me. I mean, I just went in. I just still view that as one of my most disappointing. I can just tell you all those movies that just crushed me. Karate Kid 2, Beverly Hills Cop 2, but above all of them, beyond Thunderdome, because I love the Road Warrior like anybody. I mean, I just loved it. And then to go into Thunderdome expecting this awesome sequel and to be like completely gobsmacked by how terrible it seemed. That said, I've come around to the kids, and I know chanting is irritating. And as a longtime Star Trek fan, I hate chanting because there was always chanting on Star Trek, and I hate it.
Well,
and
you think that you start to love chanting if there's so much chanting on Star Trek.
But it just bothered the piss out of me when I first saw it. But now I've come to see that the story is really about two tribes trying to make a go of civilization again, and this tribe really has, like I said, this religious fervor about going home, and Captain Walker, and I think it's really the story of like, well, civilizations start with drawings, paintings, this communication of the past and traditions, and moving forward. And I thought this is actually, in concept, it's an interesting movie. And
it's wildly. The concept is fine in terms of like spoken word and legends.
Hear me out. Max really does, which I've never really figured out until now. Max really does have his arc in Beyond Thunderdome. He really does get his humanity back. It's sort of not done well, I'll fully admit it, but it's there. It's there when he sacrifices himself and gets off the plane. Because in Road Warrior, he's screwed into it. It's a hoodwink, right? He's hoodwinked into driving the truck. He has this sense of, well, I got nothing better to do and I might as well help these people. But they're covering their butts, and they're basically, they fill the truck full of sand. Sorry, spoiler warning for anybody who's never seen the movie. So it's not quite there, but in Thunderdome he does make a decision to, when the other kid, the Bugs Bunny kid, is straggling behind, he sacrifices himself and they get to take off. And it's like, okay, Max does find his humanity back. He gets his humanity back.
Well, again, in the most 80s treacly sentimental way. I just think these kids, no, I'm sorry. No, these kids are absolutely, they're not savage. They're not rough. They're not anything, not even close to me. It's absolutely 80s sentimentalizing children completely. And so when Max does get his quote humanity, I'm just like, yeah, but I don't give a shit. Like I would have preferred. And so I actually like Fury Road later because Max is back to being Max for a while. And I like.
Here's the deal. Fury Road, for everybody spazzing about it and saying how great it is, it's as sentimental as Thunderdome. It's more sentimental.
I'm not saying.
It's more
I'm not
sentimental
saying. First
than
of all,
Thunderdome.
I do not think
there was no snapping when we was young. There was no need for no snapping.
It's like, oh, this is terrible.
The women take the place of the children, unfortunately, which is a huge problem I have with George Miller. But we can discuss that never or later. But the problem, I think, though, is not Max. When Max is the problem, I hate it. And I was just like, I don't like his show of humanity in Thunderdome. The only thing
but it's more. I'd say his show of humanity in Thunderdome is more organic and more believable than Fury Road.
I don't believe that at all. I like his relation. I'm coming on. I'm coming on strong. Because here's
you're coming on too strong because you're too close to the camera. Now back off.
Oh my God. Anyway, well, then I'll turn my camera off. Anyway. No. So here's the thing. His relationship with Furiosa is organic. And then her relationship with Jack or whatever his name in Furiosa is similar. I was just like, there is the give and take in their relationship that you don't see Max participate in as certainly not in Thunderdome.
But Max's turnaround and his grandiose plan is dumb. And
I agree. But his relationship with Furiosa is not. All the plans are dumb.
Okay, but that's Max's.
There's no great plan.
Well, I gotta say, I admit this, and I've always loved Road Warrior. Why don't they just Ken? Give me a reason. Why don't they just stay in the oil plant and just defend it?
Well, the thing is, it's not really a life there. But what they should have done is just kept the oil open, let the what's his head get into the refinery, and then they're happy. They don't have to go chasing after them and kill everybody. They got the oil they're fighting for. They
but
can go.
Humongous is going to kill them and take the oil.
They don't have to. Humongous. If Humongous has a refinery, he doesn't have to kill anybody. They leave. The tribe leaves. They leave the refinery. Humongous goes in and gets all the oil he wants. Everybody wins.
No. Humongous will kill them.
Feels like Humongous will kill them.
Humongous has been killing them.
But I'm saying,
why don't they just beat Humongous? He's going to run out of gas eventually. They're just going to beat him because he's going to run out of gas. And why don't they just stay? They've got pigs. They've got everything. The only thing that I can figure is they don't have water. But nobody explains that.
Well, this is a thing. Like this is a screenplay thing. It simply says that we're getting weaker. We're getting weaker every day, and they're getting stronger every day. Now, why are they getting stronger?
They can't get stronger without oil.
Right. But that's
or other resources.
Yeah, but in the screenplay, you can just write in whatever you want.
No, I know.
The bad guys are getting stronger.
This is the first time I've ever nitpicked. I'm like, why don't they just stay? They got everything. They've got fire. They've got pigs. They've got chickens. They can just stay. They've got trees.
They're the North.
There's even trees.
They're the
around.
Union versus the Confederacy for sure. Like they have the.
They have all the advantages. Humongous
run out of gas. The higher ground. Yeah.
Well, Humongous, he's a pillager, so he can pillage gas. So they're making gas. But what if they're going to stay? Why do they have to make gas? I mean, there's nothing like gas only matters if you're traveling somewhere.
Right.
But if Furiosa or what's the guy's name again?
Humongous.
I said Furiosa. Yeah, Humongous. He's a pillager.
Humongous.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's a pillager. So if he doesn't get this gas, he's going to pillage other gas, hypothetically, and continue to wage war on the refinery. But again, the refinery is what he wants. Like the refinery is the prize. If the people just leave the refinery, Humongous has no.
That's covered.
No reason.
That's covered in the movie. But
okay, hold on. I think this quibbling does show what I mean. The ultimate question is, why do we like this universe to begin with? Like, what is it that we're drawn to about this? What does it say? What does it say to us about? Is it about survival? Is it about the idea of humanity, overarching themes of these things? What do we like about it? Just the fact that, I mean, still to this day, Road Warrior is just the most kick-ass style movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is our fondness for this saga based in?
You answer first, Roseanne. Big question answer. Go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm asking the question because otherwise we will say, well, they should have taken the semi and done this. Which, not that it's not great, but I don't know how productive a conversation it is.
It's not. But I'm just saying that's when it leads to, this is where, when you watch them 5 in a row, you start nitpicking.
Well, sure. And that's what I'm saying.
But I'll say
as Ken, go ahead.
Let Joe have a chance. Joe, what do you like about it? Do you like it? Or do you hate the franchise?
I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan. Then again, I mentioned maybe a little bit earlier, like I sprinted through the franchise this weekend. And enough of that is enough to, I think, exhaust most people or anyone. But I think that one very attractive element of it is the idea of some people trying to cling to humanity and others kind of slipping into sort of barbarism and sort of a not even tribal, but just sort of a very, I mean, the BDSM elements are pretty obvious, I think.
Yeah.
But like,
Yes.
to what extent are you trying to cling to sanity in an insane world? And is that the best method to take? I think is kind of more of a question for the first Mad Max movie. But I think that in terms of just the way that the movies appear, is such a specific style that I don't know. I think that's part of the reason why it's captivated a lot of people. For me, I mean, like, it's also a lot of people like the sort of grim, the sort of, I don't know, dark elements of thinking about like, oh, what would it be like if society collapsed? And here's our answer: is that it's terrible. And guess what? Like, oil is still important, you know. And that turns out to be the only thing that ends up being important in sort of the Mad Max universe.
Well,
Bullets.
And water, yes.
And
Bullets, water, and gas.
Water and gas, yes.
Yeah.
The Mad Max trifecta.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. I don't want to jump in.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I think that people like that idea, and the question is like, who is actually going to try and cling to that sort of shreds of humanity, and I don't know, in some ways, kindness, compassion, those like togetherness kinds of elements versus the sort of, I don't know, the sort of evils of the out there people. I don't know. It seems like that's an element that people like, and then also having an anti-hero like Max around, who is kind of says in the very first movie that he's afraid that he'll enjoy it, like the crazies out there, and then what separates him from everybody else.
Right.
Which isn't really talked about explicitly again in any of the other movies, but I think is still
but Papa what's his face, he gives them that speech. You're no different from them out there. You know, you're out there with them, and so you know that is a factor in why Max comes back. I mean, whether it's a complete or not, he's still becoming human again, I think.
But I think that's one of the big reasons why people still come back and enjoy it and are watching Furiosa even now.
Yeah. Well,
Do you like that part of it?
Do I like the part of it?
Do you like that aspect of it, or would you say that counts against it for you?
It's definitely not my favorite thing to think about or kind of consider. I personally, like, I think that the question is, how much do I buy into the idea that, like, oh, if society collapsed, that we'd all be a bunch of BDSM freaks or people who are just trying to go against them. And I don't necessarily buy that that'd be the natural conclusion, is that we'd all suddenly be wearing leather and driving go-karts around. But that's...
Oh, what do you say it like that?
You make it sounds like perfectly a good existence to me.
Well, I'll jump in with two things. One is, like, as far as the world of Mad Max, I mean, I'm not a giant fan of Mad Max, and for this very reason, that world, the Mad Max, is a very it's a sad, depressing story. I mean, it is the guy's journey from humanity to total narcissism and not caring about things. His wife died. Actually, his wife. I always thought his wife died and his baby died, but I guess his wife didn't.
His wife doesn't die. That's
yeah.
You figure, why doesn't the actors come back as another form?
Yeah, right,
like everybody else.
Yeah. Right.
As Furiosa.
But as Furiosa. But it is a sad story. Like that Mad Max is just a sad story all along. So spending an hour and a half with this dystopian kind of environment, like it kind of weighs on me a little bit. And then you jump into the Road Warrior, and it's more of the same. Whereas, okay, there's this spark of humanity that's trying to like grow and live and move forward, and this behemoth of negativity and violence that's dragging it down. And that to me, like, it's not a story that I actually want to spend a lot of time with. Whereas something like Smoking the Bandit, I mean, that's just fun. That's where we can get behind Smoking the Bandit.
Well, again, Mad Max and The Road Warrior are the 80s answer to Smoking the Bandit. Take the rubes out of the situation and bring him some leather-clad S&Mers.
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's a matter of taste. I for one have always bought into the world. I buy it. I buy that evil people will look evil, good people will be good. I understand the world, as a simple story, I think it works, but as a complex story of what's at the heart of humanity, I think it also works. So I just think, but I think he reached his apex with Road Warrior, and so many filmmakers, he took himself too seriously going forward.
Well, it took him a while. Well, I mean, the irony is that with Thunderdome,
Beyond Thunderdome,
Beyond Thunderdome, he didn't take himself seriously at all.
Oh, but I think he's trying to go for deep, like George Lucas when he started believing his press about Joseph Campbell. Like first it went from Flash Gordon, which I never heard Joseph Campbell till circa 1988 or so, where suddenly George Lucas was sitting in the Skywalker Ranch and pontificating on how much his stories are part of the great myth. And I'm like, that's not what I had the trading cards. I had the making of The Empire Strikes Back. Joseph Campbell was never mentioned once. So it's the same kind of thing with Thunderdome. Like, well, are you taking it all too seriously and taking yourself too seriously? Because he read all these film reviews, talent blowing smoke up his ass. So that's what I've always felt about post Road Warrior, where Mad Max is what it is. It's like Roseanne said earlier off camera, it's like a 50s biker movie, and it's just it's a well shot, but a little boring in my opinion. It's a little my problem with the first Mad Max is it doesn't really kick into gear till the last act. So I don't think he doesn't find a story till the final 20 minutes. So it is like a student film in a way. What's your story?
I still like the energy of Mad Max. And again,
his filmmaking is he tops
it's his
it in Road
strength,
Warrior.
obviously.
His shots, even for a low budget or first time filmmaker, his shots
I think
the
they're
cars
great.
are awesome. They're awesome. They really are.
No.
He knew how to put a camera on.
And I like Toecutter is setting up this idea of these villains we see later. And honestly, and this is where he doesn't fulfill the promise of Furiosa, his violence against women is legitimately scary. Like that, his wife running through the forest, his wife, all these things, plus his love of these withered old Australian bats who can shoot like hell. It's all there. And so I can't look at that film without seeing all the
the seeds.
I don't know, the atomic imprint. It again, I think it is. I think I don't know. I like the lack of focus.
I'm sorry.
I like
the
it.
First movie meanders until the end. It's a meandering movie.
Well,
that's why
I don't think
love it.
Well, no, I don't think it meanders, but I think it's very linear. I mean, it's just that's the problem with it, and that's why I also agree that it's it's a fine movie. He did a good job making a movie, but why it became the cultural phenomenon that then birthed Road Warrior. To me, it wasn't a significant movie. It was fine. He did a good job, but it wasn't.
This is the
significant.
birth of Australia.
It is true.
A big.
That's interesting.
But this is the birth of the Australian film industry, which wasn't very big. So this is news. So this is the hometown hero. So he knew.
Yeah.
Here's a filmmaker who wasn't making just this boring piece of crap about colonialism or something. He made this movie. Holy crap! He made a movie. So
no, it is. I think you're being unfair. That movie is alive. It's alive in a way that Thunderdome is not. And unfortunately, and I like Fury Road and Furiosa now, but it's alive in a way that those films aren't either. And so that's why it's always something that I enjoy watching, just because I'm this does have its own energy. And I think it does set a tone for, besides style and besides, the apocalypse and which gang of roving cannibals will you be with, there is his filmmaking that makes us want to pay attention and participate in this world.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you on the focus. That's all I can say. I think Toecutter is completely unfocused. He doesn't just get revenge. He takes a while, and you don't quite get like, well, what's he gonna do? He takes a long time for all this to get set in motion, and so I think I just think
I like that.
I guess
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind that part of it.
I think he takes too long to get to the point. Whereas Humongous and everybody, they're just pretty much cut and dry.
Well, I'll criticize the first movie for this one basic thing, which is Knight Rider. He's the crazy guy. He's the lunatic, and Mad Max is gonna play chicken with him. They're gonna stare him down, play chicken. The lunatic is the one who swerves and gets out of the way. That makes no sense at all. The lunatic would ride or die and blow up and just careen himself into Mad Max and not even care about it. But not only does he
Max
swerve
is crazier.
first,
He's called Mad Max, Ken.
right? But Knight Rider is more crazy than Max.
There's a philosophical problem
That's
there.
the point. Max he's balls to the walls. You're not going to mess with Max or Goose, but they mess with Goose.
Right. No, I'm just saying that they set Nightcrawler up Knight Rider up as Knight Rider as a specific entity, and then they deviate from that entity, and I don't like that.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess before we move on to anything else, we haven't given much. Okay. Two things. First thing, why am I talking about Road Warrior again when we just talked about Road Warrior? We gave very short shrift to Mel Gibson on our last podcast about the Australian apocalypse. So I just wanted to give, and it sounded like I was really down on Mel Gibson, but I think Mel Gibson has never been better. And obviously Road Warrior, he's totally perfect, but I like him a lot. And especially since I watched the films in reverse, starting with Furiosa and went backwards, Mel Gibson, I like him a lot in Beyond Thunderdome. He's really cool. He's way cooler than Tom Hardy. Yeah. So I just have to say that he makes the series, and I think George Miller is crazy for dropping Mel Gibson. I just think that just because of political reasons, and that just seems so stupid. Like, the guy helped make you an international, like, top tier director, and you can't say, oh, well, it's just because it's all me. No, Mel Gibson was a huge part of his success, and I think that's just rotten. So he should, if he wants to make money and really wants to make a sequel, he should bring Mel Gibson back. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, I even might say without Mel Gibson, I don't know that. I mean, Mel Gibson has had the perfect chemistry as somebody you care about who doesn't give a shit. Now, maybe Harrison Ford is another one, but there's not a lot of them, and I don't think Tom Hardy was one at all. No. And so, if without Mel Gibson, I don't know that Mad Max goes anywhere, and that Road Warrior goes anywhere without without Mel Gibson.
For sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
He's awesome in Road Warrior. He's perfect.
Yeah.
But he's again, what people dismiss is how great he is in Beyond Thunderdome.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's good in Beyond Thunderdome. Just the movie itself is not good.
For sure. Look, I still officially check out of the movie when Pig Killer says, "Plan? There is no plan." Like, well, that's evident.
Right. I mean,
and I don't like the plot. Like, well, the plot's dumb. Just like you should stay with the oil, you kids, stay in the green place. It's perfect. You got fish, you got water, you got trees, you got a boat. There's no reason to leave.
Right.
There's not a sole reason to leave. So anyway.
Well,
but Mel Gibson is good in it.
Yeah.
Right, he is good.
Officially,
but that is also an issue with the whole series, and then the later movies with Fury Road and Furiosa, like they did then they did come to the conclusion that, there are a few places where you do go and you stay, like the green place. Like there's two different green places. There's the Citadel, which seems pretty good. And there seems to be a lot of technology in those places.
Right.
But this idea of like spending oil to go find oil does not seem like a valid premise. And so what you do is
it does, however, seem oddly American.
That's true. Yes.
They need to stop and start building cities around these citadels and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and the ocean. I mean, there's still an ocean there.
Right.
So you stay in one place. You don't need petrol. You just sit there and you farm. There you go. There's your movie.
Well, the first Mad Max, Road Warrior, they do want to go to the ocean. So that I guess makes some sense. But they have to still transport the oil to the ocean. They need a supply line, and they probably could hire Humongous to be their guards. But anyway, all right. So because we haven't done it, and this is the most current, let's talk about Furiosa. What did you think of Furiosa? Joe Field, you ranked it pretty low. No, you ranked it, what, 4th?
I think I had it at 3rd, maybe.
3rd, okay.
I think so, pretty much right in the middle. I had mixed feelings, I think, towards it.
As did I.
Okay, I don't know. It felt a little bit pretentious in places. It was interestingly shot, but ultimately, like, I think about others like Road Warrior, Thunderdome. They're generally pretty well shot, and even the first movie, they're well shot. They're all have their very specific kind of aesthetic, but I feel like they're also not, I don't know, not trying to be more than they are, I guess. Furiosa, while it was, I mean, visually extremely, I mean, I don't know, there was a lot. I think that it was trying to kind of, it felt like it was trying to elevate a lot of action type movies to a certain kind of level where I sort of wondered why.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
So, okay. So I think about like the certain aspects, like, for example, like taking it in, was it, my memory's not great, was it chapters or like the specific sort of title screens and stuff
chapters.
Like that?
No, they definitely had chapters.
Yeah. So things like that as sort of a conceit kind of make me go, oh, I mean, you don't even need to have that in the movie.
No.
So why bother having it?
He saw Tarantino did it once. So that's what I felt. I felt that was extraneous.
Yeah. And
sure.
So it's sort of little things kind of like that kind of make me go, okay, why? Some of the over narration of the what was it, the Learned Band or whatever?
The history, yeah.
That
came in, and that should have been in the beginning of the movie and wasn't.
Yeah.
That was odd for sure.
The sort of end revenge elements, the conversations between them. I feel like most of the Mad Max movies haven't been, well, the first 2 at least weren't extremely dialogue heavy or forward.
Right.
Like the first movie, I feel like a lot of the dialogue was almost impressionistic in the way that it was being used. Like, with all the villains and stuff like that, talking absolute nonsense. The whole point was just that they were spouting nonsense and they were crazy.
Yeah.
Like you didn't need to even know what they were saying to know, like, okay, they're out of their minds. But like with this one, it seemed much more like it required a lot more on the leaned a lot more on the dialogue, which wasn't entirely bad, but at the same time, I don't know. It just felt like it was trying a little bit too hard to be something that I don't feel like a lot of the Mad Max films are.
Well, okay. I will push back a little because I thought that Chris Hemsworth performance was surprising. Look, everybody knows who's listened to this podcast that I hate fake noses and fake teeth. And I thought he acted his way out of that fake nose and fake teeth. And I liked that final conversation coming from him. I liked that he was this nihilistic jerk. That, like, sorry, you're not going to get it out of me. I don't care. I don't care. I've had bad things happen too. But I like when bad things happen now because that's all I got. So I like that idea. I like that. Like, go ahead. Yeah. You just have to make it epic, you know?
I liked Chris Hemsworth as, what was his ridiculous
Dr.
name?
Dementis.
Yes, Dementis. That's what it was. Yeah. Like, I actually did like him, and I thought that he fit in very well among the giant pantheon of weirdos that rule this wasteland. Along with
Plus, he was like a shit disturber, which I liked.
Yeah,
like, oh, that's a new one.
But like, and likable.
Yeah,
like, you know, I mean, like he was a bad guy, but kind of fun at the same time, which is not something, you know, all of them are. But
whoa, wait, don't.
Well,
Tina Turner is amazing.
Tina Turner is very. She's everything. She's a lot.
And Humongous is awesome. I think the only time it suffered, in my opinion, was a Morton Joe. You know, where I'm like, I don't like that character. But I'm coming around, but I don't like his character much, even still. Like I just find that they heap too much badness on him, like too much evil and the harem, and and it just seems so freaking outlandish. Like, so it took a leap from Thunderdome's corniness into Fury Road takes this leap into like, this can't happen. They don't have this technology. We don't have that money. Like, how can they do what they're doing? It's just too much. So that's all. You know, all the technology that they've created in the Citadel it gets into Lord of the Rings territory for me. Anyway.
Yeah, and I mean that is sort of the problem with the series is these jumps, and I would criticize the last two movies for being too technologically advanced versus the premise of the earlier ones. So it's like these leaps. I'm not a fan of these types of leaps, but I do think it's
hang gliders and parachutes. Those are resources. Those are expensive, hard to deal with resources, and you go, they have whole battalions of these guys,
right? And the big windmills in the green place. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on there, which supposedly they didn't have because of the big wars that were happening,
right?
And you certainly can't construct that stuff from 6 guys sitting somewhere. So yeah, those leaps. However, but as an entertainment, it became because you're still using the elements of the chase and these big giant machines going fast with people crawling all around them. That is still inherently interesting and entertaining, which I felt they did very well in the last 2 movies, and especially Fury Road.
I actually thought Furiosa was a little. Again, I watched them back to back, so I saw Fury Road and then Furiosa, and I got, it's like an overdose. I just felt a little burnt out on it by Furiosa. I just felt like, you know, you're not supposed to watch these movies back to back to back to back and all that. But when you do,
you gotta wait 10 years between the movies.
Right.
But when you do, Furiosa was a little tedious on the action end. I thought it was more interesting on the story end. And Chris Hemsworth's evil was almost a resort back to Humongous and Toecutter, where he's actually an evil person who does evil things like torture people and tear off their arms and, you know, things like that. So
yeah, but I thought it was both. I thought both the storyline was good and that the action was good, and even the non-car action. I actually liked that they brought some action to it that was non-car action.
Yeah.
So I appreciated it.
Yeah, I'd say the best scene was the Bullet Town or Bullet Farm action scene, because that had a distinct sort of, she's trying to save her lover, and she's doing all these sort of cool stunts that I believe she could do. And we'll get into performance pretty quick because we're running out of time, but you know, I did think...
Plus grappling hook.
Grappling hook. Yeah.
Right.
Anya Taylor Joy was good, and I do believe she'd grow up to be Charlize Theron. You know, I thought she was a good choice, and I liked the fact that the girl who played young Anya Taylor Joy was really good, and all seem like the same. The good thing is they all seem like the same character throughout, which is rare. You know, especially where Tom Hardy does not seem like Mel Gibson.
Right, doesn't seem like him at all.
You know, so I thought Anya Taylor Joy was good. I think the problem I had with Furiosa is the computery. The beginnings was all very computery and fantastical, and it felt like your typical modern Hollywood blockbuster. And that that's what they're going for. That's the whole point of it. But even Fury Road had a better look than Furiosa. I thought Furiosa.
But I do feel like that's its iteration. So I feel like it's post Marvel, and this is where he's headed. Like, I do have to say, he does change in a fairly interesting way. Like, it's still his own take on a post Marvel film that he's making.
Yeah,
I think that's valid.
I've come to that conclusion.
That he does that.
Yeah, like I said, I accept it now. I was definitely an old man going, no, you don't use computers in a Mad Max movie. You don't. God dang it. You know, but now I'm like, well, he did, and it's still a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
I just think the problem with Furiosa is Furiosa. I think he wants to shift the focus away from Max, and I think that's interesting. I just don't think we have the same read on Furiosa that we do on Max. Like, she can't be an anti-hero because
she believes in something.
She seems to, and yet we never quite figure out what it is. Like rewatching Fury Road after seeing Furiosa, when she's talking about she's looking for redemption. I'm like, so which is it? Love, redemption, revenge, or getting back to her home? Or is she an avenging angel, as they say, the darkest angel or whatever, taking these women out of the harem? Like, what truly motivates her? And if it's all these things, it's not coming together.
She should have sold them out then, It seems like she didn't do any selling out, and she didn't really suffer at the hands of a Morton Joe. So the fact that
she did not,
I kept thinking she works for Morton Joe. Somewhere she's going to screw somebody over. I thought she was going to screw over her partner, her lover. I thought somehow she's going to screw him over, so she needs to redeem herself. But it never happened. I thought she would cut off her arm because it has a map on it, and she was going to protect her family. It didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Right.
So there were a lot of it was very close to Thunderdome in terms of a lot of things started that didn't reach fruition.
I was going to say, her character is unfortunately told in fits and starts by very competent actresses, which is it's a much to my great dismay that all three are used for a character that doesn't quite show up. And so it never seems like, does this character deserve her own movie? And I want her to. I want Furiosa to be enough. And he doesn't write her as such, which then brings me back to he is condescending towards women and children. And with Max, I mean, simple or not, he's a character and an anti-hero that we can get behind.
Well, I don't know about looking down on them, or what would you just say? You said they condescending.
I feel like he's condescending. Those old ladies, they're a lot.
Well, no, but the thing is, they were writing. Story-wise, they were riding those motorcycles. They were the ones that were they were badass. Like Furiosa.
No,
is
that's
badass.
all fine.
They don't.
No. Furiosa is tough. The women to me are like annoying and sort of like. Of course we're badass like this and we didn't have to do this. I feel like it's sort of broad strokes in terms of what women are actually like.
And, the scene
this is a movie about broad strokes.
Okay,
I agree, but they come off as kind of hammy.
He chickened out. So you look at you look at the warrior woman and the captain's girl in the Road Warrior, and they're pretty, but they don't seem inorganic. Whereas the harem women are totally suspiciously, crazily gorgeous. Where you're going, wait, whoa, you're flying in the face of your own aesthetic, and like nobody in like even Tina Turner is not gorgeous. Tina Turner is hard bitten, and she's got the cleavage, but she's not this sort of sexualized thing. You buy her as this hard bitten, angry leader. So everybody's got to have an edge, and those girls do not have an edge, and those women do not. The women on the bikes do not have an edge, especially when they use the good-looking one as a nude decoy, which just seems like bullshit.
Yeah.
And even I think they corrected a little bit. I do like the woman who they have play Furiosa's mom. She does seem like a rangy, looking. Yeah, she did. And I liked her, and I was like, okay, I liked
except her world was suddenly confusing. Because
I agree.
They live in this green paradise with a rock bridge, and you're going, well, how did they miss that in Fury Road?
For sure.
Yeah, that was a throwaway.
For sure. For sure. I'm just talking about in terms of the portrayal of women. I'm like, if you're going to shift your focus to Furiosa, and I think that's a cool idea, then I think you should be able to carry it off. And I just don't think he does.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I think he wants to have his cake and eat it too.
Well, yeah, the fact that he tried is a testament to something, because a lot
I think so, sure.
And Mad Max happens to be just one of those iconic characters. It's hard to compete with Mad Max.
I don't know, Ken. I think it's like a douchebag who says, "I'm all for women and feminism," while he's trying to get laid all the time. That's the vibe I get from Mr. Miller.
I worry about that once he put those harem women, they're all models. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. They should have been, first of all, once Tina Turner shows up, you just think she's the only person of color who survived the apocalypse. Like, it makes no sense why everybody is white and everybody.
Australia.
Okay, in Australia, there should be black people, and there's none. Like, it makes no sense why none of all of his wives
if
are
he'd
like
been thinking about it,
perfect.
the kids in the green place should have been Aboriginal for sure.
So the kids should have been Aboriginal,
Well,
and
but they
here's
came
the
on a plane,
problem:
though,
they
didn't they?
have Aboriginal hairdos, and they wear Aboriginal clothing. It's not the unique stuff that is Road Warrior. It's actually taken from native dress. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not. It is cultural appropriation because he's just putting white people as the kids. It makes no sense. Anyway, so his casting is.
Hold on. In his defense, they were transplanted from a plane crash.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Fine. Okay.
There should have again.
Black people are ever in planes.
He could have gone the walkabout route where they were saved by Aboriginals. So that it just anyway. Blah blah blah. What could have should have.
Well, I will say. For an Australian film, that should be included. For a film that's clearly Australian from start to finish.
Well, I'll say there's racism against Aboriginals before the patriotism of women. Just in that it is an Australian film series, and he has avoided, the other than
right the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
However, as far as the model, the models being his wives, I will say that just as far as an idea is. They are the most beautiful, and so there's only 5 or 6 of them. It's not like there's 200.
The world, the women are. Yeah, I was just like, okay, so think of the cutest girls or the prettiest girls in Road Warrior still look pretty tough and pretty dusty, and and like they can do some stuff. And that's all. Okay, but
his
so
world,
that's.
Morton Joe's world is gross. So it's like if you go to a strip club, they don't look like that. They look beaten down, and there's a certain they're part of that weird sleazy world. He does it. It's incongruous with the Morton Joe War Boys vibe. It just doesn't look right. It just seems like he's just suddenly you look like you're flipping through in a Victoria's Secret catalog when it's the whole vibe is more goth and disgusting. So I find it like cheesy.
Well, it's just, but this is the rarefied world. This is these are babies being taken from their mother at birth and pampered. Like you saw the room that they kind of live in with the
they are like
the trees and the water
again.
And so, exactly. They're veal. So they're not the hardened ones that have to subsist out in the environment. That's the opposite of that. Now they don't all have to be pretty. That's just marketing. But I think as far as a thing of them being not
it's the casting choice
hardened.
I think they look too. Anyway, it's
they look frail.
It's still they're still slaves.
I will say they look
slaves.
frail, right? They're too skinny. They don't know how to load guns, and I guess I agree. I believe that, but I will say that in Road Warrior, there's just a lot more women in Gastown and things like this, as opposed to Furiosa is the only game going pretty much in Fury Road in terms of women, and then in Furiosa there is one more woman warrior. I just think that's interesting in a film driven by a female character to have fewer women than Road Warrior and Mad Max.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, no,
no.
I mean,
look at the war.
The camp.
The war boys are sort of
the one who sells her out in the camp, who fights with their mother. Remember, there's a couple more.
But in terms of the warriors, I just thought we're such a in Road Warrior, the women were part of it, and all of a sudden that stops.
Yeah. Well,
it becomes a separate path. That's why I just think, what is he? So when I was thinking, like, is there deeper stuff here? What is he trying to say? Women, children, regeneration, the green place. That's when I just thought it's comic books, Roseanne. Stop yourself.
I think it's just
like,
cars
shut
going
up.
fast.
It's cars going fast. She looks badass. She's got a robot arm. Who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah.
True enough. All right. In the last few minutes we have, let's talk about performance. It's kind of a dumb thing because you got Mel, but I guess this is obvious. So Joe, Tom Hardy or Mel Gibson?
Oh, Mel Gibson.
Ken.
I'm gonna go Tom Hardy. No, that's ridiculous.
Bold choice.
Right. Night and day. I mean, I'm not even sure why they. I mean, Tom Hardy has a certain personality, but I don't think it's the proper one. I'm surprised that they landed on him for that role. It's a hard role to fill for sure, but I'm surprised it's him.
Yeah. Yeah. Roseanne?
Let me just say, I like Tom Hardy as an actor. I think he's probably a better actor than Mel Gibson, but it's Mel Gibson 1,000%. You know.
All right, Anya Taylor Joy or Charlize Theron, Roseanne?
What?
Come on, just make a decision. Pick one.
Okay, Charlize Theron.
Ken?
I say Anya Taylor Joy. Her look, it is interesting. Like I find it kind of fascinating. Like she's the one actress that's all just about her face. It's such an interesting face and those eyes. Like I haven't seen another actress like that, and she uses it, and it works, and it's compelling. And I think the way she was shot in Furiosa was excellent.
Yeah.
Hold on, Ken, you're right. I'm changing my vote. It's Anya Taylor Joy, and she does a harder job of actually trying to sound like Charlize Theron, which is kind of cool. I think she's trying to match her accent and how she looks, even though she's like a foot shorter.
Right.
Anyway.
Joe?
So you changed my mind.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to also go with Anya Taylor Joy, or Taylor. Yeah. Anyways, her. I think also in addition to what you were saying about what Ken was saying about like using her looks, I think also George Miller was using her looks a lot. There were some scenes where like her eyes, like for example, unnaturally light shade of blue suddenly popping through when everybody else's eyes are kind of like dull or whatever.
And very dirty face, and those eyes are like searchlights.
And it's like, and I think it kind of works to kind of pull her out as sort of the main character types. But in terms of her performance, like I also think that I don't know, I'd say she had to do maybe a little bit more work in some ways, like just in terms of I don't know, the amount of time, the amount of emotional stuff that she was going through as well. So yeah, I'd say with Anya.
Yeah, they say that for Charlize Theron, like this was one of her great roles, and I thought she was good. She was very good, but I didn't think it was stellar. I mean, I thought it was, she's very stoic throughout, and it's an action movie. I didn't see it as a great acting job, but that's just.
Well, I think she carries it. I do think she does
the
good
wind's
work
on her
there.
shoulders.
I'm kind of warming up to her. I didn't want to see a prequel with Furiosa. Anya Taylor Joy got me curious. I was actually disappointed. Anya Taylor Joy, in my opinion, didn't carry the movie like she should have. So I think her character was given short shrift. She's not in the movie enough where I felt like she didn't make enough of an impression. But you guys are right. He did film her really well. I'm gonna still stick with Charlize Theron. I thought that I've warmed up to her performance. So Anya Taylor Joy looked better, but I thought overall her character didn't matter that much to the movie in a way. I thought Chris Hemsworth made more of an impression.
I will say that, like, for Charlize, like, I think that the scene where she finds out that they drove through the green place and she didn't even realize it, of her kind of walking off on her own for a little bit, was probably the most, for me, out of all the other things we've seen with Furiosa, I think that was the most iconic in terms of how it was acted and like her reaction to everything.
But Furiosa ruined it because she should have been saying, "How did I pass the stone bridge without noticing?"
Yeah.
Let me just say though,
the windmill,
yeah, right. I do love Charlize Theron as an actress. I think she's better than people give her credit for. I know she's Oscar winning and things like this, but I feel like people they gave her that as kind of a pat on the head just for letting herself look ugly. And I think, honestly, when she gets stabbed and she's still driving that truck, she seems like an action star, and not in a like, hey, women can be tough too kind of way, in a like legitimately like Charles Bronson kind of tough way driving a truck. Yeah. And so I will say she does have that quality, which is, I mean, and it's not men or women always. So I just think she is capable of many things.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Best bad guy.
Villain.
Tina Turner. Hugh Byrne. Hugh Byrne. Humongous. Or Chris Hemsworth, or Hugh again as a Morton Joe.
I'd say Immortan Joe looks the most interesting. The mask was really good. I mean, it's kind of a ripoff of Darth Vader, but I thought if you're going to go that direction, they did a decent job with it. But Chris Hemsworth was just the most entertaining, the most relatable, the most dynamic, and the most entertaining.
Joe Field.
Oh, that's a hard question to answer. I like a lot of them for very different reasons.
Got to pick one. You got to pick one. You got to take one with you on a trip. Who is it?
Okay, then I'll have to take Tina Turner with me.
Right.
The first line that she said had me laughing out loud. That was the sort of entertainment that I don't think I laughed at anything else.
He's just a raggedy man.
Yeah, exactly that, and it's just, anyways.
We're not giving enough credit to Tina Turner. She hadn't acted
Hold up.
before.
Mine is also Tina Turner. I agree. As much as I love Humongous.
Take it away, Roseanne. Why is
Tina Turner?
Why is she good though? We gotta give Tina Turner, the late great Tina Turner, her due.
Okay, so
and
Tina
never
Turner
acted in a movie before.
Okay, so not acting, she brings a level of, I like the little edges of amateurness about her performance. I think that makes her seem tough and also unpredictable. Also it's true. She looks stylish without being sexualized. And again, when she says that she was nothing and then the world ended basically and she woke up and she was alive, and that's when she gained her power. I just thought that's the most we see from a villain, I think, in the sense of and I think in the most understandable way why a villain becomes a villain, which is they survived and they can. And I think she pulls that off like crazy. And they're smarter. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And she also has to, sort of eat shit a little bit. And I like at the end, her okay, see you around, Raggedy Man, or on your way, soldier, or whatever, with just her the way she pulls it off. I find her to be the most compelling villain.
Yeah.
It is a little it is a little easy though. She says, I survived. Well, okay, you survived, but all those people in that town, Bartertown, survived.
No, but come on, Ken.
But you get the feeling from her.
You're discounting her leadership. She's constantly screaming at them.
Yes, you get the feeling she's the smartest person in the room.
Without explaining much, you see that she's their leader. You see that they really need her, and she's up to the challenge. I wish I took it for granted, but she's very good.
No, I'm saying for her self-deprecation. Oh, I just survived. I'm here because I just survived. Well, no, you survived, and you were a tough motherfucker. And sorry, I can't say that. And you have to, and you fought your way to the top.
She is.
And so there's a whole backstory there that was not addressed that they just kind of glossed over just to make it simple.
See, you don't need it.
But I think Tina Turner tells the story physically, believe it or not. I think the way she carries herself, as you're just she is clearly the leader in all rooms, even against Master Blaster, Right. And so I do think she is pulling it off in a way that even Humongous, they have a lot more props, and she really just has the way she carries herself.
Yeah, she definitely had the aura.
Well, I'm gonna go back to Humongous because I've always loved Humongous, and Humongous should be stupid, but he's not, and that's the beauty of the actor and the physicality he brings to it. He does seem commanding. He does seem seductively nice, like the devil. And he's wearing a hockey mask and a jock strap, basically, and you still buy that he's the king of the wasteland. And I think he's a formidable bad guy, and he's seductive. What people don't give credit. He's seductive. They're like, you had him, he'll let us go, and you there's part of my brain that goes, yeah, you should just let him have it. And I think
Ken's ready to give him Gastown.
Yeah,
let's face it. He got Ken.
It works for everybody.
And I think Humongous, despite everything, is the best villain. He still stands out as the most formidable villain. Even though I love Tina Turner, I think Immortan Joe is just over. It just reeks of effort. It just feels that's where he's one of the big reasons I walked out of Fury Road and go, that sucked. Because Immortan Joe just feels way too overwrought. How the hell did he get in that mountain? How's he can't breathe. People should have killed him long ago. the world starts getting too fantastical in Fury Road, and that's my problem with it.
Yeah, but that's the problem with all sequels, is that they all try to outdo themselves. That's issues with Marvel movies all the time. And so you're right, it is the problem, but it's the nature of the beast. So I agree with you.
Well, I think Chris Hemsworth is a much better villain. And he's definitely in the running. He's like inching out Anti-Entity, and definitely like he's inches past Anti-Entity, and he's just shy of humongous. I thought Chris Hemsworth was a shock because I did not want to see him. I was like, fake nose. Oh my God, I don't want to see this movie. I was like, that was scaring me away, and I was completely stunned that he was great. Like. Showed the fulfilled the promise he gave in the movie Rush. I don't know if anybody saw Rush, the race car movie. He was great in that. Mm-hmm. And then he did Thor, and you see Thor Love and Thunder, where you just see a guy just happy to be collecting a paycheck, and that's about it. And you're like, okay, I'm done with that guy. I don't care about his movies. But he won me back. Damn it. He's a good actor. So and there's that. All right, we are 2 minutes from out of time. So, of the film, are there any films you wouldn't recommend? Kendrick Wright, of the 5 movies, are there films that you wouldn't recommend?
Yeah, I'd say, well, literally, I mean, nobody's going to like this, but, well, I'm going to say 2 movies. Thunder Road, not Thunder, Beyond Thunderdome. I just thought it was too. It was too childish. Just too easy breezy. Not interesting enough. I mean, Mad Max was the only interesting part of it, and it wasn't enough for a whole movie. So I just thought it was. I mean, in a word, I thought it was boring. And then the first Mad Max. Again, it's a fine movie. He should be proud of himself. They did a good premise and took it seriously, but I just don't think it's a great movie. It's just a movie, and I'd rather see different movies.
Fair enough. I can agree with that. Joe Field, any movie in the bunch you wouldn't recommend?
Yes. I think that if a person wanted to see a Mad Max movie, I could almost point to any of them, with oddly the exception of the first one. Like if we're talking about the stereotypical Mad Max aesthetic, world, everything else, the first one only starts to lay the groundwork, and it's unnecessary groundwork considering the other movies can be watched out of sequence or individually. So I would say, like, if you want to watch a Mad Max movie, oddly, don't watch the first one.
I can agree with that. I mean, I can see that point. I mean, I've always, the first time I saw Mad Max, I was stunned at how bored I was. But I was 17, and I was expecting at least something like The Road Warrior. And the only thing that was like The Road Warrior were the car shots. And I didn't remember much about it beyond that. And then I've only recently watched it twice. And, I'm warming up to it. I just got back from Australia, so suddenly the creepy Australia architecture is I'm feeling it. Like, okay, there's something memorable about this movie. But you're right. In terms of a post-apocalyptic world, it is more like sort of like a 50s beatnik versus greasers or something, or beatniks, greasers versus, preppy, like, fight movie. So it just has a different vibe than of all of them. It for sure has a different vibe. Like, it's just a low budget fight movie, basically. Roseanne, any in the bunch you won't recommend?
Again, I respect what both of you say about them, but only a coward doesn't watch all of them. So all of them or none of them.
I've got it. Oh, go ahead, Gino. You.
I'm just gonna say my only, I recommend all of them at this point. I would have said a few years ago, I would have said don't watch Fury Road. It's just a big dumb computery rehash. But I've turned that around, as I said. So, yeah, I think they all have something to offer. Matt, again, they're all the same story told in a different era with different mediums, in a different, or it's sort of not a different medium, a different voice, in a sense. So when you by the way, when you all say that the tone of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome changes, the tone between Mad Max and Road Warrior changes. They are not the same style. They're not at all. That's why that's why I was so bored by the first Mad Max, because it's like a low budget biker film. It really is. So it's a completely different style than the Road Warrior. So that's all. They've always changed. The only time it doesn't change is Furiosa. That's in the same vernacular as Fury Road. And I've come to accept it as this is 21st century filmmaking. For what it is, it's pretty good.
I've got a question about Furiosa. Maybe you guys can help me. So when she comes back, she's been in the wasteland. She comes back to the Citadel and says, "I'm Furiosa," and the guy goes, "Oh, you're Furiosa. Come on up here." Didn't she run away? Didn't she escape?
Yes.
Ken, you're asking the right question, like at the end of the podcast. I'm like, what the fuck is with that? Excuse my F word. I'm just like, so much of it, like, wait, you were in a harem, now you're a mechanic, you're a runaway, but they care? What?
They
like,
care.
it's a mess.
Very
it's a mess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess we'll take 2 more minutes and talk about the weak script.
Yeah, that is a mess.
Immortan Joe had his eye. She was the apple of Immortan Joe's eyes. He made a huge deal he didn't want to make because of her.
Because of her.
And then she escapes and nobody bats an eye. That was really weak. And then at least have a scene like, "Oh, we found you. You're gonna be, the Immortan Joe's gonna have his way with you." And she's like, "Whoop, but I can fix this." Or she leaps to the crane and saves the guy who's gonna fall to his death or whatever. And like, oh, bloody hell, she's our new imperator or whatever. They didn't explain anything. It's like, I don't get it. So I thought the screenplay that's why I felt she was minimized. That's why Anya Taylor Joy doesn't win over Charlize Theron, because the character was very, very like second.
Well, again, we don't know who she is half the time or why. I mean, her entire middle years are completely confounding.
Yeah, well, I thought we are in her middle years, aren't we?
Well, I guess
she's
like
still pretty young.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess from childhood to teenagehood, whatever between there is really confusing.
The funny thing is the last shot of the movie, it's Anya Taylor Joy and it's not Charlize Theron, so that was even more confusing. Right. Because you're like, well, wait a minute. Don't you at least bring Charlize Theron in for a cameo? Because she's now supposed to be old, or not old, but she's supposed to be a grown woman now, and she should have come back as Charlize Theron if you're going to have the last shot of the movie with starring Fury Road. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that really annoyed me is you're running back to the green place, which is fine, but then you've got these 6 women on motorcycles, and there is no green place. They're alone. What are they decoying or not decoying? Baiting. Who are they baiting? Why is the
great question?
No,
what is she there for?
Fair enough. They're stupid idiots who can give them gas. That makes sense in that world.
The 6 women on motorcycles is gonna get whatever caravan is coming through. The 6 women are gonna get the gas from the caravan coming through.
Maybe it's 2 guys. Maybe it's a caravan of 2. Who knows? Who knows who they're trying to decoy? But it's a decoy. It's a setup.
Well, yeah, but on this one, at least it was a.
Look, I don't like the idea. I think it's ridiculous that they would have a naked woman up there. But I just think that's just stupid. I thought that they were marauders who were stealing gas from people.
Okay, well, but a big war rig comes.
Is that clear though? I did not feel like that was clear.
I thought it was clear because he says that's a trap. Remember Max
says, that's a bait. I know that. So I'm like, okay, that's bait. But
I assume in this world people do this sort of thing.
Yeah, but 6 old women though, the 6 old.
But they're sharpshooters.
Yeah,
they're the best of the best. They're the Volvolina or whatever. What are they called?
Right, to their talents.
Volvolini.
Volvolina.
That's such a stupid name.
Congress thing.
But they were the best of the best. Plus, they have the seeds. They're like killers. They're life-giving killers.
Right.
There was no need for snapping.
But plus the fact that their entire civilization has been annihilated. All of their friends and relatives are now dead. There's only 6 of them left, but they remember Furiosa from 15 years ago.
No, it was 30 years ago.
Well, 30. What, is she that old? Oh, you're right.
She
This
left.
is Fury Road. Yeah.
So she left when she was what, 10? Okay, you're right. 15 to 20 years ago. So yeah. She's a teenager. She's a teenager. Yeah, okay. You can't even start nitpicking this stuff. It just goes.
Well, but you should be able to.
Timeline is all over the place.
I wish filmmakers were simply a little more diligent to their own stories. That's all I wish.
Who are you telling? But he just doesn't care. He gets away with the whole "I don't give a shit" card.
Yeah.
So like once Bruce Spence can be explained away with "I don't care." Like, all right, he doesn't care. He's gonna cast the guy just because he felt like it. So even though it had caused nothing but confusion in 1985. So anyway, all right, everybody, thank you for a glorious podcast. Joe, give you a minute to pitch your wares. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I have 2 books that I've written, high fantasy novels. Basically, the first one is Watchers of the Evenfall, and sequel is Betrayal of the Evenfall. The first book is basically about a girl who comes back to life, doesn't know how it happened exactly, through magic, and ends up being recruited into sort of group of outcast law enforcers who are all sort of different fantasy monsters. And they try to unravel a mystery surrounding sort of like what would be a drug lord, I guess. So.
And then where can we find these red hot novels?
Any place pretty much online where books are sold. And if you happen to be in the Concord area, you may also be able to find copies at Flying Colors Comics.
Right on.
Wow.
I think that's where your uncle owns that.
Yeah.
A flagship comic store in the entire country.
Yep.
So
I want to plug that too. So.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. And Ken, once again, where do we find your website? What's your web address?
It is lambjones.com. No, hold on. lambjones.com. No B in Lamb. LAMJONES. Where collaborators come to meet.
Right on. All right, everybody. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. That helps. When you like and subscribe, that gets this podcast out to the entire world. Roseanne, anything to plug?
Don't forget about public education.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time on Fabulous Film and Friends. Thank you for listening to Fabulous Film and Friends. Copyright 2024, a Bel Air Films production.